here. All right, very good. Well, hello everybody. Thanks so much for joining in. I know it's a Saturday. I very much appreciate your time. And welcome to the NTS training. If you have no idea what NTS is, we'll go over that, no worries. But we got a good hour and 15 minutes worth of good solid information for you. Some quick housekeeping before we get rolling. I'm taking a recording of the session, so I'll have that up on YouTube once we get things concluded and I get it processed and all of that stuff up there, and I'll send you a link to that. I'll also send in that email a link to additional resources and things that we'll talk about. So when you see some links on the screen, if you write them down, awesome. But if it's like, well, I can't get all that, that's all right. We're going to have it in the email for you. I also have a copy of the slides in PDF format that you can go grab. And let me see, anything else? We'll have a break at about the 1 hour point where we'll have some hands-on and also a good opportunity there to take a break. If you have any questions as we're rolling, feel free to throw them in the chat. I will keep an eye on that. And if it's something that we'll cover a little bit later, I'll give you the quick answer, and then we'll dive into it at that point when we get there. Otherwise, I'll give you a good answer as best I can, but I want to remain conscious of the time. I want to make sure we keep things rolling for everybody. So, all right, let's go ahead and get rolling then. So that I can tell my section manager what I did today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a high-level overview of the NTS, kind of like the 30,000-foot view. I could go into a lot of detail, but I'm going to give you a good overview of it so that you know what's going on, the skills that you gain from jumping in on traffic handling, and then we'll dive into the radiogram format and its components. And that's where it can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you hear a traffic net and they're like, please copy number 8 routine. Like, what is all that? We're going to go through that with a good amount of detail so that you have a good understanding there. And we'll have some hands-on practice as well with filling out the radiogram form and authoring traffic. And I'll go into some details on how a traffic net works and flows too, so that you get a little bit of an idea what happens on the net control side of things. So, well, let's go ahead and dive into the overview. The NTS, the National Traffic System, well, in a nutshell, it's a group of us hams that work to move information, or traffic is the official term for that. It's essentially messages from one point to another, whether that's across town or across the country, or in some cases we do move traffic internationally. This has been going on since 1914, and if anybody recognizes the significance of that year, that's the year the ARRL formed. So this is the relay in American Radio Relay League. This is why the league exists. It was meant to formalize how we move information across amateur radio. Now, the NTS didn't become an officially established public service org until 1949, but this is what we've been doing in the league for all these years. And the other public service org that usually comes to mind for folks is ARRL, Amateur Radio Emergency Service. So we're sister programs in this, and so there's a lot of if you really dive into the documentation, crosswork between ARRL that handles emergency comms at the local level and the National Traffic System that helps with that medium and long range communications during incidents. The types of things that we're moving over this system, well, let's start with the most significant, the one that we thankfully don't see very often. That's the emergency traffic. Life or death matters. I need supplies. I need the generator. I need fuel. I need to know where the shelter is. I need to know that this road is closed, go that way, or you're going to have a bad day. Those types of things in an emergency. That is the highest significant traffic that we can relay, and thankfully we really don't see any of that. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Next is priority traffic, and this is for things that are still incident related, but they're not at that emergency bar. But time is of the essence. I need to know how many survivors there are. I need to know details on injuries, those types of items. Next is what we're probably going to see the most if we're pulled into an incident, and that's welfare traffic, where I want to let my family know I'm okay, or those types of things. You can also send some general welfare messages, like what are the numbers, how many folks are in that affected area and what's their status or things like that. But a lot of it is the, hey, I'm at this shelter and I'm all right, or hey, I'm at this hospital and I'm being treated. Those types of details. Then last is the day-to-day. This is the routine traffic, the happy birthdays, great to see you. Some of you, maybe you've received a random piece of traffic that, welcome to the hobby, enjoy the fun and friendships you will make type traffic. Sometimes I get folks that have seen that one. This traffic that moves every day through the system is what helps us test it daily, and to help build our skill set so that if we are called into service, we're a well-oiled machine and can just quickly swap from the day-to-day messaging to the incident-based messaging. The traffic system, I know, like here at the Dallas-Fort Worth level on our local net, the net runs every day. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas or New Year's or any of that. The net runs twice a day, 365 days a year. The system runs and practices and is ready to go every day. We primarily move messages through the US and Canada, but there are connections to international. I know here in Dallas, we've moved traffic that's headed to Japan, Great Britain, Germany. And so you can get things like that. Before we got into this discussion, I did have an email with some questions. And one was, what if it was going to someone in the armed forces or different things like that? And that's where some locations have connections or liaisons, which I'll explain that later, to Mars, the military auxiliary radio system service, Mars. And so we can get the traffic in through the NTS, and then there are connection points where the message can then swap into Mars and then relay through Mars to get to the destination. And we had a big exercise for that. Some of you might have seen back last October, where we had messaging coming from Mars and coming into the NTS and crossing the country through that. So some areas have that better than others. It just depends on the liaison relationships. The way the traffic moves, it's like any other way we would operate in ham radio. So voice, so FM or HF phone nets. You got Morse code, the digital side of the house. So if you've got a Pactor modem, that setup, you can relay traffic through DTN, the digital traffic network type of thing. But we're all using the same format, regardless of what way you're doing it. It's all still radiogram based. Here's an example of how something would move through the system. And this is this will be a real world. It's something that I sent. Quick, awful looking chart, I admit, of how the system is organized. And let me get out my laser pointer if I can remember where that is in here. Here it is. So like incidents, traffic generally starts and ends at the local level. So generally you would bring traffic to a local net. And then if it's headed out of the area, it would start to work its way up to a more regional net. And when you think regions, like here in Texas, there are some Texas nets. It also can go by region. So we have like region 5, like think in your call sign. If like here in Texas, it's 5s. So there's region nets based on that. And then you have the larger area nets. And so Eastern area net, Central area net, Western area net that cover large portions of the US. Traffic will flow up to these larger nets, cross, and then work their way back down to the local level as close as we can get for final delivery. So that was a lot with this awful chart. Let's get out of this and actually have an example. So let's say I want to send a family member a message up in Michigan from down here in Texas. And this is something I actually did. So this is how this flowed. I bring that traffic to the local net here in Dallas. And I say I have one going to Michigan. And then some magic happens that I'll explain, that we figure out how to get it started in that direction. And in this case, the station that picked it up could take that to the digital traffic net, DTN, and they relayed it from here in Dallas up to a station in Indiana. From there, a station in Michigan picked it up through DTN, so it relayed again from that station in Indiana to a station in Michigan over DTN. And it just so happens that that station is about 5 miles away. And so that station went ahead and did, and it's out middle of nowhere, Michigan, so there's no local net. So that station went ahead with the final delivery, which is in the vast majority of these cases, a phone call. Any questions on that one? I know it's a lot. So again, feel free to throw questions in the chat. I will keep moving, but if you have a question, feel free to throw it in there. So what do you gain from doing all this? It really gives you some good on-air skills. One of the important ones is to speak clearly and slowly. If any of you have been on a Skywarn net, if you participate in ARRLs and something interesting happens, well, the adrenaline starts to rush, and I'm over here and I see rotation, it's coming down, and it's calm, slow, clear. Slow is fast, fast is slow. And what we mean by that in the traffic system is that if I say it slowly, then I only need to say it once. If I go too fast, now imagine the person's on the other end and they're trying to write it down, I need 4 cases of water and 5 gallons of fuel, and they lost yet, I need. And so you'll have to say it all over again. And so that takes time. And in the meantime, you have other traffic that's building up and waiting while you're trying to get that message pushed. So it will be uncomfortably slow. So whatever you think slow is, go slower than that. And that'll be a good pace. Enunciating can help, especially if it's a little more interesting of a word. So instead of like enunciate, especially if the band conditions are fun, although I keep crossing my fingers for the solar cycle. And the last thing here, I like to think of traffic relaying is that you're not reading this thing, you're sending it. And I think that puts a different dimension on what we're trying to accomplish, because we want this thing as best as we can to get to its destination word for word and letter for letter. And if that thing had a glaring mistake in it when it was brought to the traffic system, that's exactly how it should arrive on the other end. So when it comes to traffic handling, accuracy trumps speed. Yes, we want to get things flowing and not take forever, but we need we got to avoid the telephone game, right? That I need, five cases of water turns in, I need 3 dozen balloons on the other end. We can't do that. So accuracy, and even if some stations on the air, well, I couldn't hear you, so I'll follow up on email. That is an incomplete relay. And so I've asked some stations to push back on that when it happens. And when they do, the system works like it should. Another station in between jumps in and says, I can hear both of them just fine. And then the far station relays to the one in the middle, and the one in the middle then relays to where it was headed. And that's exactly how the system is designed to work. And if we think in an emergency, when we have no phones or internet or things, it's all going to be over the air. That's exactly how we want the system to work. It's just like that. Are those DTN, the digital traffic net connections, going over the air or over the internet? They're going over the air. So there is a way to get traffic into the system through DTN over the internet. And if you're interested in seeing that, I can do a walkthrough after the presentation. I can open up WinLink and kind of show you how that works. But DTN is all over the air. So when it hops, like back in that diagram where it hopped from here in Texas to Indiana, that is all 100% over the air. There's no internet in there at all. Can you pass an original message directly to a regional net if no local net is available? Absolutely. And so if you're Texas is a big state. There's a lot of places where it's just lots of pasture or different things, and you're not going to have a local net. So if you could connect to Texas Traffic Net, Texas CW Net, the 7290 Traffic Net, those are a larger area net, not as big as Central, but if you can connect to that net, absolutely, you can bring traffic to that net and you can pick up traffic from that net. There's no hard requirement that you only can interface with a local net. You can absolutely jump in on any traffic net. All right, we'll keep rolling here. Again, if more questions, please feel free. On-air skills. So familiarity with formal nets. Again, we're running every day, so you're going to get a lot of practice with how to jump in on a net and listen to the instructions from net control and really listen to the instructions from net control. One of the fun things that seems to happen is net control will say, please check in with your call sign phonetically only. And what do you get? Well, this is K8AMH and I'm in North Dallas and I don't have any traffic. And I was like, I just need you to check in with your call sign phonetically only. That's all I'm looking for. This was one of those fun like Skyward nets. I only want to know about hail or rotation. And what do you get? Oh, the sirens are going off. Thank you for that information we didn't want. So lots of opportunities to build net control skills. ITU phonetics. They are very much the gold standard. So that's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, da, 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 da. On the local nets, if you sneak in a Doug or a Nancy or something, you know, the world will not implode. But if you're on one of the larger area nets, you start to move up in the system from the local. ITU very, very, very much expected. So lots of opportunity to build the ITU phonetics side of things. Pro words or pro signs. Technically, they're pro words if they're spoken and they're pro signs if they're CW. But anyway, pro words, a lot of these are the same that you're going to use in public safety, for example. So if you're working with ARRLs and you're handed a public safety radio, be careful with it because it's thousands of dollars. But when you're talking to dispatch, please say again your traffic, I copy your traffic. Those types of things are going to be the same. If you really want to hear pro words in use in a fast-paced environment, listen to air traffic control. They are going 100 miles an hour, but they've really got it down, and you have to. There's just so much traffic in the air that you got to be quick and to the point, which gets us to the last item here. Generally speaking, radiograms have 25 spaces or groups or words on them. If we're in and sometimes this comes up as a question, if we're in an emergency, how do I get my request down to 25? And the answer is you don't. The answer is if the hospital has a list of things they need and it's 30 something or 40 something, then that's how long the radiogram is. You know, we wouldn't, all right, hi hospital, thank you for the request for your supplies. Please get it down to 20-ish. I always find it amazing when it's only 25. It's like, no, if we're going to handle emergency requests, the 25 limit goes out the window. But if we're doing welfare messaging or the routine day-to-days, the happy birthdays or things, then yeah, we want to be efficient with things. So 25 is a great limit to keep in mind, to try and keep the messaging down to clear, concise messaging as best you can. If you can say it in 8 words instead of 14, bring it down to the 8. That really helps a lot. Same thing if you're on a Skyward net and you see something interesting, rather than I'm looking up at the sky and I see the clouds and there's get you right to the point. I'm at this intersection and I see rotation without lowering. Very clear, specific, to the point. Frees up the frequency for someone else that might be coming in with a emergency request or things like that. So 213s usually come up, so I've put it in the deck. The traffic system is very much radiogram. And so how does FEMA's 213, the general message form, fit in things? It is a different format, but a lot of the information is the same. Different groups locally have come up with different ways to translate from one to the other. During the Mars exercise, Mars very much uses their version of the 213. We gave them a conversion guidelines on how to go from the 213 to the radiogram format so that they could cross it back into the NTS and get it relayed. So work with your local ARRLs teams on how they necessarily want you to do that, because there's no national standard yet. But through traffic handling, whether you're relaying radiograms or 213s or things, the downtime between incidents is the time to build the skill set. because when the disaster begins, the time to prepare ends, because you're in the incident. So the time is up, right? You're responding, so you can't prepare anymore right now. Now you need the water, now you need the food, right? So it's the same thing with this. Sometimes we'll get some folks that'll jump in on a traffic net. When Hurricane Laura was in, someone will jump in and say, hey, I'd like to help, and it's like, we appreciate the enthusiasm, but right now we're responding. We don't have time to answer questions or give training or things. We got to keep things flowing. So now's the time to prepare. Mistakes. So you're handling traffic and you make a boo-boo. It's all right. Sometimes folks are concerned that they're going to jump in on the traffic net and they're hearing a lot of everything flowing, and they're going to come in new and they're going to make a mistake, and I don't want to sound bad or wrong or different things. This is the time to learn. We welcome you to jump in and make those mistakes. I've made those mistakes. I still make mistakes, and I'm putting the amateur in amateur radio today. So you're welcome. Please come in and jump in and give it a go and ask the questions. And if you make a mistake and you know it, just hang on, correction, and keep on going. And if someone gives you feedback, know that we're trying to help you learn and grow the skill, and help you become proficient at traffic handling. So there's one thing you can take away from this today, is that please feel free to jump in, participate. We all started, I started not knowing anything about traffic handling. The way I got introduced is we were doing a simulated emergency test back in Michigan, and that's why I got an 8 in the call sign. And they said, okay, for you, what we want you to do is go to this hospital and you're going to relay this piece of traffic into the emergency operations center. And I said, I don't know what that means. so that became my beginning of traffic handling. We all start not knowing, and the way you learn is, like right now we're going through things, but jump in, give it a try, and feel free to make the mistakes, and that's how we learn. So please feel free to jump in and participate. So that's the overview of the system and things that you can pick up. We're going to go into the radiogram format next. If any questions, please throw them in the chat. I'm going to have a little bit more caffeine here, as if I needed that, but there it is. And we'll go ahead and jump into the radiogram. So why this form? We've been using this format for a long time, and from that time comes experience and lessons learned and things. And so this standardized format is what allows us to all work with a lot of efficiency and keep the flow and those types of things. And so whether you're moving a radiogram across the country or worldwide, we're all using the same thing. We can also trace them. So if we have a piece of traffic that goes into the system and then disappears into the ether type of thing, we can start following it if we need to. One part that empowers that is keeping a local station log of all the traffic that you're handling. If you start participating regularly, a log really helps to know who you're getting the traffic from and who did you send it off to. And then if we have questions afterwards, we come back. We can use those logs to look at things. Or if we are coming out of an incident, we're putting together an after action report, an improvement plan, lessons learned. The documentation allows us to go back and replay the incident and understand what happened. So all of that really helps, especially if you get into the incident side of things. All right, here's the form, a good old radiogram. We're going to break it into chunks, and so we'll just go through it one component at a time. Now, I have some really slick animations that if we were in person, this would just look awesome. But online, it not so awesome, but yeah, it'll work okay. There, that kind of over, but okay. Pretend it looked great. So we're going to break it into chunks. The good news is the header is probably the hardest part, so we'll do that first, and then we'll go through them. And again, if you have questions, please jump in. So we'll start here with the header. You can think of the header kind of like what's at the top of your email. Sometimes this is called the preamble, but we're talking the same thing. So like in an email, you got the from and the to and different things, and this gives us some of that information as well. So the number is the first part. This is assigned by the first station that's actually filling this form out. And it's to help with tracking things. And so like if the system, flows through the system and someone wants to send a question or a reply, or I couldn't deliver that number 456, then that message comes back to whoever first brought it. Hey, we got something about your 456, and it gives you a way to look it up. This number is completely up to you. Whatever number you pick is the one that's going to stay with it all the way through the system. Some folks will do it by the month, so we're in April. So my first one for April would be 401 and my next one would be 402. I personally went with my first one is 1, my second one is 2, the third one is 3. I'm on number 800 and something at this point for this cycle. And probably when I get to about 1,000, I'll turn it back around and I'll go back to 1 and 2 and start it over type of thing. If you've got message number 10,400 and something or whatever, then okay. But the number is up to you. The next one is the precedence. This goes back to that urgency we talked about earlier. So emergency, priority, welfare, or routine traffic. Generally, we'll abbreviate this except for emergency. We always write the word emergency out because we want it to stand out. So always write the word emergency. But for priority, welfare, or routine, feel free to abbreviate it when you're filling it out, or when you when you fill it out. When you're reading it on the air, when you're relaying it on the air, if it's a voice net, we'll still say routine. Like I wouldn't say R, I wouldn't say Romeo, I would still say routine. And I'll give you an example of that in a bit. The next one is a handling instruction. This is an optional, one of 2 of these that are optional. And this one helps if there's some information about how that traffic should flow through the system as it's going, or how it should be delivered. Now, these are listed in that little reference guide I've got, but I've got them up here on the screen. The most common one that you'll see is golf, Hotel X-ray golf, which is a nice way of saying, please don't spend any of your personal money to deliver this. If you're going to have to spend money, then never mind. Don't worry about delivering it, but please send me a message back letting me know that you couldn't deliver it. That's what we mean by servicing the original or the originating station. A service message. I was unable to deliver because reason. Others that you might see, Hotel X-ray Charlie, which is please tell me the date and time that you delivered it. You can do more than one, so you could do like Hotel X-ray Charlie Golf if you wanted. Hotel X-ray Echo, please get a reply from the person you delivered it to. The one that we all love and hate very much is Hotel X-ray Delta. That is effectively a tracer. And when someone uses this, what happens as that message moves, every time it relays, 2 messages pop out. The first one is if someone is relaying it to me, then I send a message back to the originating station saying, I received this message from this station at this date and time. And then when it moves to the next one, another message heads out that says, at this date and time, I relayed it to this station. And what happens at that station? Same thing. I received it at this date. So this generates a lot of messaging back to the originating station. This can be helpful if it's a very, 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 very urgent emergency piece of traffic, and I need to follow it. I have to have that set of eyes on it all the way through. Sometimes I will use it if I'm troubleshooting what I like to call a conduit in the network. So if I'm sending traffic to an area and it's routinely not making it there, and I've tried a couple of times, then I might throw this tracer on it, along with something in the message that says I'm tracing this route, to just help me understand what's going on within the network so that we can get that troubleshooted and that type of thing. So If I didn't beat that horse enough, please don't use Hotel X-Ray Delta except for extreme circumstances. Okay, let's keep going. Station of origin. This is the station that is filling out the blank radiogram for the first time. And this is the station we would come back to if we have questions about this piece of traffic. So the message could be from anyone. It could be from a family member that doesn't have their amateur radio license, or anything like that. Think the welfare traffic, right? But the station that's filling it out for the first time, that's whose call sign goes here. And then if there are any questions about it or any service messages, they're going to come back to the station of origin. So if you're filling this out for the first time, it's you. The next one is the check. This is the way that we help prevent errors. It's a count of how many words or groups are in the text, and only in the text. And so if a message shows up and you tell me the check is 12, 1, 2, and I get done filling it out and I only have 11, well, then I know I missed something, or I didn't put a space. I put 2 words together that should have been separate, or different things. And so we can figure out what happened on that. There are some shorthands that we can use for like the more common messages, and I'll go over that in a bit. But just know for now that if you use one or more shorthands in the text, we put a flag here in the check. So instead of 1, 2, it would be ARRL 1, 2, Alpha Romeo Lima 1, 2. It's just a heads up that we've got some of these shorthands in the message itself. The place of origin. All right, here comes a curveball. Remember how I mentioned that the message could be from anybody. They could be a ham or a non-ham or type of thing. The place of origin is the location of the person who authored the message. So if I'm here in Dallas and I'm on the phone with someone in Fort Worth and I'm delivering a message to them and they want to send a reply back, and I'm filling out the radiogram, the station of origin is me, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, regardless of whether that other station is a ham. I'm the one filling it in for the first time. The place of origin is Fort Worth. Even though I'm in Dallas and I'm filling it out for the first time, the person that's authoring that message is in Fort Worth. Fort Worth goes in this box. How can this help? Well, if I'm sending a message from Methodist Hospital, well, which Methodist hospital? Is it the one in Dallas or is it the one in Fort Worth? So the place of origin helps with clarifying where that message came from. Now, if I were to put Dallas instead of Fort Worth, the traffic system will not explode. The traffic police will not come over and take your radiogram pad, or it will still go. But if for accuracy, place of origin, the place of the person that authored the message. Okay. The time filed, this is the other optional. In routine traffic, hardly do you ever see this. But if it's emergency priority or welfare traffic, we very much want to see it. And if it's got a Hotel X-Ray Bravo instruction, we require it. Because remember, Hotel X-Ray Bravo is, if you don't deliver it within so many hours, then forget it. So I need diesel fuel for the generator in 4 hours. Well, if it's 4 hours later and the message hasn't gotten through, well, now I don't need the fuel anymore. I'm going to need something else. So cancel it and send a service message back saying message undelivered, it timed out. Well, I need to know what time it came in order to know if that time has passed. Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, is the time zone, in quotes, for the traffic system. So if there's no time zone indicated on the time, UTC is inferred. We will assume UTC unless otherwise indicated. So if it's Central Daylight Time, CDT, some stations will put, what is it right now? 1934 is UTC. So 1434 is the local. They'll put 1434 local L Lima, well, what time zone are you in? I'm in an emergency. I don't, all right, what time zone is Dallas in? I just happen to have this handy book in the middle of this emergency that tells me time to, you know, definitely put the time zone. If you put local, I will cry on the inside a little bit, but still take the traffic. But if you could put the time zone, it helps a lot, especially when we're in incidents. All right, let's keep going. The date. This one's easy. Again, we're still UTC. Just the first three letters of the month followed by the date. So today's April 17th. So April 17, APR 17. When I say it on the air, I say April 17, but I only need to write the three, APR. We don't need the year. If the traffic is a year old, chances are you don't need to deliver it anymore. So if you got a piece of traffic that's that old, I would just put it to the side and go, okay, but we don't need the year. When we think about being efficient on the air and that type of thing, the year doesn't help us. I know it's 2021. I don't need you to say that in every piece of traffic. So just the month and the date. All right, so how would I say something like this on the air? I will throw a little caution here that some different nets have different net personalities, or kind of the way they do things. And so if you're going to jump in on a traffic net or any other net, listen to it for a bit, get a feel for how it operates, get that understanding. So the way I'm going to demonstrate it here is how we would do this at the Dallas-Fort Worth level. Your net might do it a little bit different. So listen to it and get a feel. So the way I would say this, please copy my number 312 routine Hotel X-ray Golf Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel 12 Dallas Texas 2145 January 15. Now a couple of things on that. One, I would not go that fast, but I'm trying to keep us on time. Second, did you notice how I don't need to read what each item is? I don't say precedence routine, station of origin. We all know the format. So we're just going right across the top as you're relaying it. So there's no need to do that. Saying Hotel X-ray in front of what's there helps, because then it signals that I've got a handling instruction and I didn't roll right into the station of origin. Let me explain that here this way. I mentioned that handling instruction and time filed are optional. So the way I would relay this is I would say copy number 312 routine Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel 12 Dallas Texas, January 15. I don't even acknowledge them. I don't have to say it's blank or anything like that. You just roll right on through it. If you don't mention it, it is assumed to be blank. Questions on that one at all? Oh, so why doesn't my example have a time zone? Just because I didn't put one there. So if it was going across, yeah, I would either have a time zone, or remember, if there's no time zone, what's assumed? Coordinated universal time. So if it's UTC, I don't necessarily need to put it. Some stations will put the Zulu, the Z afterwards. So it'd be the 21, what do I got in the example? 2145 Zulu. But if there's nothing indicated at all, then it is assumed to be coordinated universal time. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. All right, that was the hard part. Any other questions on the hard part? It gets much easier now. All right. Well, if you are typing one, I'll keep an eye, but we'll keep rolling here. The next part is, well, where's it headed? This is generally like an envelope if you were putting it in the mail. First, last name, call sign if they have one. Remember, it doesn't have to go to a ham. The one I sent to the family member in Michigan is not a ham. Absolutely fine. But first, last, call sign if they have it, address, city, state, zip, phone number. At a minimum, if you don't know their address, city, state, and zip. Some stations will say all I need is the zip code. But if I'm in an emergency and I get zip code 98052, well, where the heck is 98052? Where do I send this? If you put pardon me, Redmond, Washington, 98052. Well, now I know I'm headed towards the Pacific Northwest. So that helps a lot. So at a minimum, the first, last name, city, state, and zip. Phone number, please. If you can't, I'll explain that in a second, but the vast majority of traffic is delivered by phone. If we think about it in an incident, I got a piece of welfare traffic. I want to let my family member know that I'm okay. We want that personal connection with them. Hey, I have a message from your family member. It says they are okay. They're at this shelter. You know, did you want me to send something back? You know, that personal touch has a lot of impact for the person on the other end. You know, and if we just put it in an email and send it out, we don't know if it made it or any of that. It just, that part just gets lost. So phone numbers, very, very, very helpful. We want to practice like we would run in an incident. So if you can, please, a phone number. If not, then you can use an email. What we'll do is we'll route it towards that area as best we can, and then the station in that area would then open up an email and put it in an email. Emails need to be written out. So if it's jane.doe@example.com, you know, how do I say @? You know, how do I say a symbol on the air? Well, the answer is we write it out. So jane.dot, doe, example.com is how we would break that out into the radiogram. The only symbol, like an actual symbol that the system supports, is a /, which is said as stroke on the air. Otherwise, other punctuation marks, and I'll give you some examples in a bit, they all get converted into words. So here's an example. We're going to send this to Jane Doe because I'm very creative with my fake names, and she's in some town, Wisconsin. So the way that this would get transferred to this, would fill out in the radiogram like I have it on the right. And the way I would say this on the air, Jane, and again, I go slower. Jane Doe, I spell Delta Oscar Echo, amateur call Alpha Romeo 1 Tango, address figures 123, mixed group 85 Tango Hotel Street, direction southeast. Sumtown, Wisconsin, zip figures 00121, phone figures 330-555-4424. Break. So that's our introduction to some pro words, and that was a lot, so I'll slow it down. I spell indicates you're about to spell whatever it is you just said. This is a good practice for last names. It can be good for first name too, like John. Is it Jon? Is it John? But whatever you're going to spell, if you're going to spell something, make sure you start spelling it soon. If I go Jane Doe, I spell, well, at that point, you've probably written something down on the other end. So if it Jane Doe, I spell Delta Oscar Echo. That way the station can go ahead and get it. Amateur call, you're going to give a call sign. Figures, so address figures, phone figures, zip figures, you're going to give a series of numbers. We always give them one at a time when they're digits like that. So not 123, but 1, 2, 3. Mixed group means you're about to give a mix of letters and numbers. Direction for cardinal directions in an address. And then the last one on here, break. Usually this can lead to a question of, well, I thought break was if you have emergency traffic, right? Because like here in DFW, a lot of the nets have in the preamble, stations with emergency or priority traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro words break, break, followed by their call sign. And so sometimes folks will associate break with I have urgent message or something like that. In this case, we're indicating that we're taking a pause. And this lets the other station on the receiving end know that here's your window to ask questions. Please spell Doe. Please say again word after street. So you can get those fills is what we call them. I have some missing information I need to fill in. And so either they'll come back with, please say again, or please spell, and I'll go over that too in a bit. Or they'll say, go ahead, go text, which is the next part, to indicate that I'm good so far, continue type of thing. So any questions on that? And if to give you some time while you're typing, I'm going to take this question that's in the chat. What is the standard practice for people who don't pick up? Do you leave a voicemail with the message, or do you leave a voicemail with a request to call them back? I suspect that happens a lot these days. Yeah, I enjoy not picking up the phone and having the IRS threaten me to go to jail unless I go get the gift card or whatever. So if I don't recognize the number, I don't pick it up. So if you're delivering a message and you get the voicemail, the approach that I take is if the greeting says it's the person I'm trying to call, like, hi, this is Jane Doe, please leave me a message, then I will go ahead and leave the message in the voicemail, and I will count it as delivered because I have confidence that I've reached the right phone number. If I get the voicemail and it says you've reached 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and their phone number and I'm not sure, then I'll leave a message that says, hi, I'm Ham and I have a message for you that's come through ham radio from wherever it's from. Could you please give me a call? I can deliver it to you and answer any questions. My phone number is. And then if they call back, great. And if they don't call back and I try a couple more times, then I'll service the station back and say I couldn't deliver it after multiple attempts and that type of thing. So, all right, we'll keep going here. Op notes, operator notes. So there's two places where this can happen. This is the first. An op note is another piece of information that helps with the relaying of that traffic. This first one is for information about handling or delivery. So just like we have the handling instruction, this also helps with this. In this example, I've got workday only. And this can be good if, the phone number is maybe to the business, someone's office. And again, no commercial messages over the air, right? Remember that amateur radio rule? We don't do business over the air. Same rules apply here. But if I have something go to a family member and I can only reach them during the day, I can put this information to help them understand, only call during these hours type of thing. That's the address part. The next part is very easy. The receiving station info that generally you won't need to fill in. This is your information. So if I'm filling out the radiogram and I need to turn it in after an incident, or if I'm going to put it in the mail and I want them to know who I am if they have questions, then I would put my information here. But when I'm taking traffic, for me or different things, I don't fill this in. I know my name and phone number, so I don't need to fill this in every time. This is if you're going to hand this physical radiogram to someone else type of thing. So generally you won't fill that in. There, that was easy. Okay, next part, the text. This is the message. Again, usually 25 groups of words. I like to think of each space costing $5. And you can maybe, correlate that with the, Telegram days that, the longer the message, the more it costs. Again, we want to be clear, concise in those types of things. So if you can shorten it and save the $5, save the $5. So let's use this message as an example. Great seeing you yesterday. Hope to get together again soon, 73. So the way that we start translating this is first we have to get the punctuation backed out. Remember I talked about how those get changed. In radiogram traffic, periods are written as either the letter X, which is set as initial X-ray, or the word X-ray. Both work just fine. And if someone's sending it to me on the air and they say initial X-ray, then I'm writing the letter X. If they say X-ray without initial in front of it, well then XRAY is what goes on the form in front of me. So, back to that word for word and letter for letter. If it's initial X-ray in front of you, initial X-ray is how to say it, and vice versa. If it's a question mark, the question mark becomes query, exclamation points become exclamation. I generally don't see those very often, but know that that's what those would do. So the way this would get converted, great seeing you yesterday, initial X-ray, hope to get together again soon, figures 7-3. Now, you notice how I don't have an X-ray between soon and 73? This is going back to that, let's save $5 where we can. Pretty clear the sentence ended after soon. So did I need an X-ray there? No. Do I need one after yesterday? Probably not. So keep that in mind when you're putting things together, that there's some ways that you can try and save money. Now, if it's something like a date, and I think I have that. Yeah, I have that next. If the message ends with a date like August 10th, 73, that could get a little confusing. And so that's probably a time where it's worthwhile to spend the $5 and put that initial X-ray in there. Again, we want to be clear and concise. So if it's a good investment, definitely spend the $5 there, type of thing. Hopefully that makes it a little clearer. When you're figuring out the check at the top, these items count. So if you look at this, 5, 10, 12. So the check in the top, in the preamble, in the header, would be 12, 1, 2. So the check on this message would be 12. Here's how I think I did that already, right? It's great seeing you yesterday. Initial X-ray. Hope to get together again soon. Figures 7-3 break. So kind of the second set of pro words there. Initials. Some stations will say letter group. You're about to give initials. Again, we've got the break at the end of the text, which means you're pausing again. And maybe I need something. Please say again word after you. You went too fast if the station says, please say again all after you. That is a good hint to slow down, and it happens. It's sometimes they say you went too fast. Sometimes they'll just tell you. But if they say, please say again all after something very early, that's a good hint to slow down. Please say all between yesterday and get. They just need that little chunk. Maybe the signal got fuzzy or something there. Affirmative or negative are much better than yes or no. Again, think back to public safety. It's how it's going to work there too. If you need to make a correction, the magic word is correction. Direction east, correction. Direction southeast. I say again, direction southeast is how you can introduce a correction if you make a boo-boo there, type of thing. All these pro words are in the handout. They're the more common ones you're going to use and run into in here. So feel free to use those. That's it for the text. The next part is the signature. Starting to get into the home stretch. This is directly below the text. Yeah, there's no label there, but this is where it goes. And usually it's your name and your call sign if you're a ham. So in my case, Aaron, amateur call, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel. The way I would say that, again, if I'm on the air, Aaron, amateur call, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel. End number 312, no more. How copy, a couple more pro words there for you. So end indicates that you're done. That's the end of the radiogram. You might hear end book. I'll explain book traffic in a bit. No more or one more or two more. If you're relaying to a station and you've got a couple of them, then you tell them how many you have left. End number 312. Two more for you. How copy? How copy? Did you copy it okay? Need anything? That type of thing. And then if they did get everything, I roger your 312, or good copy on your 312, or something to that effect. And we're polite. Thanks for the traffic. Thanks for taking my traffic. K8 AMH back to net. We'll go through the net protocol type of thing in a bit. This is the second place where you can put an op note. And this one relates to replies. And so a good example of this, and I'll show you some actual traffic. A station in Germany, Peter, DL4FN, will send traffic over here to the US. And not all stations know how to route traffic back to Germany. So he'll put an op note in the signature, op note reply or service to Kilo Echo 5 Yankee Tango Alpha. That's Roger here in Dallas. So that if there's a reply that needs to go back to Peter, the traffic can come down here to Roger, and then Roger will get it the rest of the way to Peter. So it helps with that routing it back component of things. Some stations, maybe their address is in New York, but they're currently in Florida. So they'll say, service or reply via South Florida traffic net, type of thing. So it helps with the routing to get it back to where they're at, type of thing. So hopefully that makes sense, and I'll show you examples. Everything that I've talked about is effectively the radiogram. And, aside from the receiving station info, because that's you, everything I just went over does not change as the traffic flows. This all stays exactly as you get it, exactly as you relay it. This is the word for word, letter for letter. Everything stays the same. We want it to be like a photocopy of it when it gets to the other end. So nothing in there changes. The last part at the bottom, this is your tracking information. Who did you receive the traffic from, and who did you relay it to as it's going through the network? Again, UTC is your friend. The form, some of them have the net, some don't. I like to write the net just because, again, like here in Dallas, we have 2 sessions that happen daily. So I write which one it was it the early session or the late? But again, this is for your tracking. So whatever helps you to track it. In this example, this is saying I relayed it to Roger KE5YTA at the DFW late traffic net on January 16 at 0440 Zulu, coordinated universal time. And then if I have a question like, did you send my traffic along? Yeah, I sent it to, and then we can start following it along, type of thing. That's what this helps with. So here's how everything we just walked through, here's what it looks like. And I think I have a little bit later where I would walk through how I would actually relay this on the air. But I'll go ahead and do this now. Again, a little faster than normal. Please copy my number 312 routine, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, 12, Dallas, Texas, January 15. Jane Doe, I spelled Delta Oscar Echo, amateur call, Alpha Romeo 1 Tango, address figures 123, mixed group 85, Tango Hotel, street, direction southeast, Sumtown, Wisconsin, zip figures 00121, phone figures 330-555-4424. Break. And at that point, I'd wait for the please say again, or then assuming I get the go. Great seeing you yesterday, initial x-ray. Hope to get together again soon. Figures 7-3. Break. And then I'd again wait for them to come back and tell me go. Aaron, amateur call, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, end 312. No more. How copy? And I get good copy, or I Roger 312, and that type of thing. And so that's how that would end to end flow through the system. Any questions? It's a lot of fire hose, I know. So again, if it is a lot. So if after a few days, let this kind of bake for a bit, you come back to the YouTube recording and watch it again, you'll start, oh yeah, okay, I get it now. It's clear. This will get you started on things. So again, fire hose treatment here, give it a little bit of time. It gets smoother with practice and time, type of thing. So what if we have the same, and again, questions in the chat, please. If you have the same message going to multiple destinations, and maybe a good example of this is Merry Christmas, hope you have a great holiday, or something like that. We will call that book traffic. I have the same message that's going to multiple destinations, and this helps us more efficiently move it through the system. So let's say I bring a book of 4. So I have 4 messages going, 4 different people, but it's all the same message. What we'll do with the traffic net is whatever stations are going to help with the relaying, everybody will listen and copy the common parts. That be like the precedence and the station of origin and all that, and the text. But then the uniques of each, the number and all of that, would be what we would give after the first one. So the first time I relay it, I would give the whole thing. And then on the next one, I would say, okay, the next one in the book, number 313, going to John Smith, address, phone number, N313, 2 more in the book. How copy? I Roger through number 314. Alice something, right? I don't need to give the header again. I don't need to give the text again because it's all the same. So I can hammer them out a lot faster that way when they're brought as a book. So if you have this, the same message going to multiples, definitely bring that as book traffic. Some nets will just have you do the common first. So don't give the number, don't give the address, don't give the phone number, just do the common first and then connect with each station to give the particulars. Others, like what we do here, the first one all the way through, and then the follow-ups are just the number and the address. And of course, in the tracking, generally, the date, the time, maybe who you sent it to will change, type of thing, but the header and the text and the signature all stay the same. Questions on book traffic? This can really help a lot when we're trying to move the same thing across to multiples folks. Okay, we'll go into shorthands, and then if that break I promised is coming up very shortly, along with the hands-on. So I think we're about 2-3 minutes behind. So here's an example with the shorthand. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. So here we got ARRL 56 new amateur radio license. Well, what the heck is that? So this is in your handouts as well. These shorthands help with the more common things that we'll see. There we go. So for more commons, like, season's greetings or different things, right? We have these shorthands so that we only have to use a couple of spaces, but then we can translate it later into the full thing. And again, remember the check becomes ARL and then whatever the number is if we use one of these. Here are the more common ones we'll see. ARRL 50, greetings by amateur radio. ARRL 56, congratulations on your fill in the blank, a most worthy and deserved achievement. We have a couple for the servicing. So I delivered your message at this date and time is 47. And if I couldn't deliver it, it's 67. And you'll notice at the end of 67, it says, please advise. Yeah, you're not going to get any advice. That message will just be done. But that's what's in there. So if we go back to this example, this says, congratulations on your new amateur radio license, a most worthy and deserved achievement. And so remember, we had that blank. So what we fill in the blank is what comes afterwards. Now you'll notice too here that 56 is spelled out. When we use these shorthands, we spell them out. We don't put the figures 5, 6. We don't have, the digits. We put them as the words. We want them to be clear that they're part of the shorthand. So definitely spell them out. And when you give them on the air, initials, Alpha Romeo Lima, 50, I spell Foxtrot India, Foxtrot Tango Yankee. 6, I spell Sierra India X-ray. You're stressing the fact that they're written out so that they're clearly part of the shorthand. So definitely, and you'll hear on some nets, ARRL 50 FIFTY 6 SIX, is okay, but the textbook is 50 I spell, that type of thing. I think I jumped ahead. Yep, there it is. So same thing. Spell them out, give them one letter at a time. That'll again stress the fact that they're part of the shorthand. So a couple quick examples. Let me get the magnifying glass out again. And again, these are real. This is back when I lived in the box in Capel. ARRL 50, for folks that remember 50, greetings by amateur radio. So when I go to deliver this, right, I would not, hey, I got a message from you. It says ARRL 50. They're not going to know what the heck that means. So you say, say greetings by amateur radio, John, and congrats on new amateur radio license. Enjoy all that the radio community offers. Best regards. And again, we have that op note in the signature, because this is coming from Peter in Germany, and we can see that in the place of origin is Urbach, Germany. Reply or service message to Peter via Roger in Richardson, Texas 75080. Remember how I talked about city, state, zip is kind of the key for helping us get it get it there. That's exactly what he's done here. Send this to Roger, and Roger's in Texas, Richardson, Texas here, and here's the zip. And that's what's going to get it down here so that we can get it relayed to Roger and he can continue it back to Peter over in Germany. So that's why you would see an op note here like this type of thing. So hopefully that clarifies that. See the question in the chat. I'll get to it in just a sec. Next example, kind of the same thing with the op note. Hello, Gary. And again on the phone, hello, Gary, period. Congrats on, no, I just say, hello, Gary, congrats on your new amateur radio license. Ask delivering ham for more info about this message. In other words, tell them about the NTS. Best wishes. And again, we've got the op note. It's a little shorter this time, but the op note to send it back through Roger. So I promised a break, so we'll do the hands-on in just a second. If you need to get up, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to throw this example on the screen. I'll have you try sending one to me. Name, address, the phone number, and sometimes this is a question, is that my phone number? That is one of my phone numbers. It's one that I give out publicly. It's the one that I let the IRS call and get my new siding from Sears. They still do that, those types of things. But if you do have a question, I've had folks call me and I say, well, you're probably going to voicemail because I have no idea what your phone number is. But it's my phone number if you need to call. But again, if you need to take a break, go ahead. Otherwise, grab a radiogram and see if you want to give this a spin, and then I'll show you how it should look here. I'll give you a few minutes. Questions in the chat. Or one, how do you state up front that it is a book so people can know there are more recipients coming? So when you bring it to the traffic net, and I'll have an example of how the traffic net flows later. One of the questions will be after you check in, they'll say, okay, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel. Hi, Aaron, got you checked in. Do you bring any traffic? And I would say, I have a book of 5. One of the books headed to Michigan, 2 in the book are headed to Washington. And so you would give those details to the net control station, and the net control station is then going to help with figuring out how to route that around to get that moved towards those areas. And again, I think the example when I walk through how the net flows, I think will help with that a lot. But when you check in and they ask what traffic do you have, that's when you give those details. Right? Let me have a little more caffeine, and then I'll get to the next question here. Can I try sending a piece of traffic to you from my local traffic net? Absolutely. And so I have a couple of different things I do to help encourage traffic into the system, and you can participate in that too. I'll have that later. But one's a trivia thing, and one's Traffic Thursday, which if any of you are familiar with WinLink Wednesday, it's kind of the same thing, except it's with radiograms rather than with WinLink. But if you want to send me a piece of traffic, these are the details to put. Sometimes I will have stations, like especially with the trivia traffic and things, I'll have them put an op note in the address part because it's related to how to send it to me. I'll put op note deliver via Dallas local net, because sometimes I'll get, and sometimes it's just folks don't know, sometimes it's just the band stinks, and sometimes it's just pure I'm not going to bother. But I will get the station that's 1,000 miles away that they will call. Hi, I have a piece of traffic for you. And it's like, okay, are you able to route it through the rest of the network and get it to Dallas rather than have it delivered from the New England states, type of thing? I mean, there's a whole network in between. But if you just put name, address, and my phone number, you don't even necessarily need to put the phone number. I check into the traffic net virtually daily. But that'll start it on its journey here, hopefully, and I'll pick it up locally on the net here. Other questions, I'll give you a little bit more time to fill in the radiogram, and then we'll put up the how it would look, and then if there's questions on that, we can dive into those things. Or if there's a what was that part again, or things we can go back and look at that too. Just let me know. All right, we'll keep it rolling here. if you don't have it filled out quite all the way, that's all right. But we'll keep things flowing here just to try and help keep things on time as best we can. So hopefully you have something that looks similar to this. Now the number is going to be, your number. Routine, I hope this wasn't emergency. And station of origin is U. The check is going to be 9. Maybe you put an X-ray after soon, which means the check would be 10, 1, 0. Your place of origin is wherever you're at right now. I'll mention that too. Like if you're mobile, right? Like you might live in Dallas, but if you're in Fort Worth and you're filling it out and you're relaying it, well, you're in Fort Worth right now. So if you're in Fort Worth, I got the address, phone number, and then the text. Hope to hear you on the band soon. Figure 7-3. I didn't spend the $5 for the X-ray after soon. And then your name and your call sign in the signature. Anybody have any questions on how this comes together? And again, if you have the X-ray after soon, it's fine. I do it. I'll do it on the air, and I'll be like, soon initial X-ray, and then I'll catch myself and I'll laugh. And I'm like, oh, I guess I had an extra $5 today, but that's what it says. Let's just keep rolling with it. Said it just like that. But any questions or anybody have anything different that I can help clarify or anything like that? Feel free. And well, we'll go ahead and we'll keep rolling then. So traffic nets. So let's go ahead and talk about how a traffic net works and how things happen on the net control side and what are liaison stations and things like that. So traffic nets work generally like any other net. There's a preamble. Welcome to the DFW Metroplex Traffic Net. My name is Aaron. My call sign Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, and I'll be your net control station. This net is a local affiliate of the ARRL's National Traffic System, and I give you some instructions on what we're about to do. Then we start taking check-ins. Here in DFW, we'll start with stations with traffic. So we'll say if you have traffic for the net, please check in with your call sign phonetically only, and then get those check-ins, and then okay, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, Aaron, welcome to the net. What traffic? And then I would give my list. I have a single, like one. I have one going to New Jersey. I have 2 going to Florida. I have a book of 3. One of them in the book's headed to Michigan, 2 are headed to Washington. Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, and then the net control station will log all that, and I'll show you that in a second. Then without traffic, and that's important too, the folks that are coming in without traffic, because they can assist with the relaying. So everybody that's checking in can help and jump in with traffic handling, whether that's traffic coming in needing local delivery or traffic that's going to head out of the area type of thing. Once all the check-ins are set, well, then the relaying begins. We'll start connecting stations and get the traffic flowing across so that we can keep it moving through the system type of thing. So how are we logging all that on the net control station side? Well, this is a log from a net I did. And so I was NCS, net control station. I was in Dallas at the time. The location helps because if I've got traffic coming in for Dallas, well, who are my stations that are in Dallas? Because I want to get it as close to the destination as I can. In this case, I was a liaison for the Denton County Amateur Radio Emergency Service Team. Liaisons are stations that can connect with other organizations or other traffic nets. And so thinking like ARRL, if we're in an incident and there's a message from the local EOC that needs to get to the state EOC, well, then a liaison from that local ARRL team assisting in that local EOC can bring that traffic to the traffic net, and we can get it up to the state. And then if something comes back, we know who to relay it back through the liaison station that's at that EOC, if that makes sense. Other liaisons for other traffic nets I've talked about. We have the Texas Traffic Net, the Texas CW Net, the 7290 traffic net, so we're starting to move further up in the amount of area that these nets can handle. Those are the stations that can take traffic to those nets. So if I have, a piece of traffic that's headed to Houston from Dallas, then the Texas CW net's a good candidate for that. And then I would relay it to that station, and then that station would get it across the state down to Houston for it to work its way back down to the local Houston net. So let me explain that more as I walk through these check-ins. So Calvin was next. He's in Fort Worth. He had one for Bowie, Texas. Then Don W9VE checked in next, and he was the liaison for the Texas CW net. He didn't have any traffic that he brought, but I still got him on the roster. So if I've got something headed out of area across Texas, he can help get that moved in that direction. The next two stations, Roger and John, were both checking in as digital liaisons, DTN. Roger brought a book of 5 to that net. 2 of them were headed to Dallas, and then 1 to Plano, 1 to Prosper, and 1 to Melissa. So again, it's the same 5 messages, just going to those 5 different destinations spread across the Metroplex. Then John had a book of 3, could be a completely different message, or sometimes it's the same message depending on the traffic, but book of 3, again, the same message across those 3 going to these 3 destinations. And then he had 1 additional that was outside that book, and sometimes we'll call that a single. I have a single to Burleson. Then Roger, KG5NNA, was the next one to check in, and he had a net report. We collect statistics about the traffic system each month. And so as the section traffic manager for North Texas, I get details from traffic nets happening here. And then I put those numbers together and I send them up to ARRL headquarters. If you look at QST, and usually around page 70, somewhere in there, you see kind of the public service honor roll stations. That's also part of the reporting that we'll do. You can get points based on how many messages you handle and how many nets you check into, or if you participate in a public service net or like a Skywar net, doesn't necessarily need to be NTS related. You can build points, and we get all those details and send them up to headquarters. But we do all that through the traffic system. Why not? Why email them when you can just put it in a radiogram and send it to me on the air? So he had a net report that would go to the net manager, and then at the end of the month, the net manager sends me that through the traffic system. We do all that through the traffic system as much as possible. So why not? So once we have all those check-ins and we've got something that we're going to route, then we'll connect 2 stations together. Net control will say, this station, please call that station and pick up 1 message to Dallas. And then the conversation will begin. Other station, this is K8AMH, I'm ready to copy. Okay, please copy my number, blah, 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 routine, break, go ahead, sign, thanks. And then, please say again, all the stuff that we've talked about. And then Roger your 312, thanks for the traffic. And then the ID with your call sign, because FCC is our friends. Thank you for taking it, K8AMH back to net. And then it goes back to net control. And then the net control station puts the next 2 stations together to move the next piece of traffic. Now, if I had multiple going, like say to Roger, if I had a couple going to Florida, then I'd say, N312, 2 more for you, how copy? And then I would go right into the next one, and I would go until I don't have any more for them, if that makes sense. I already talked about how to relay the one from earlier. Any questions on how the net flows or anything like that? Because what's next is I'm gonna relay one to all of you. And so if you've got a blank radiogram handy again, I'm gonna send this to you. And I promise I'll go slow. so that's not too fast, type of thing. And then when we get done with that, we'll go through it again and see if you have anything different. And I'll give you some resources and things, take final questions. Again, if you're interested in more details about DTN, can dive into that a bit. But we're coming up towards the end of the slides, at least. What if there is no liaison who can take the traffic? Okay, so that happens once in a while. Let's say I have one that's headed to Florida, and I check into the net. I have one going to Florida, but I have no liaisons at all. Then I need to hang on to it. So for routine traffic, okay, we're doing it volunteer time and, kind of, that type of thing. So It's not like if you join a traffic net that, okay, your traffic net schedule is Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday each week. I mean, we're not like that. It's, come in and participate when you can type of thing. So if I don't have a liaison that's available, then I'll hang on to it. And I'll get asked at the end, do you need to give that to someone else, or do you want to hang on to it for a future net? And usually I'll say I'll hang on to it for a future net. If it's something like a net report and none of the net management team is checked in, and I'm about to leave for a week, like a vacation or something, then I might say, I need someone else to take this for me because I'm leaving. And then I would relay it to another station that's stepped up to help. And then they'll keep bringing it to the net on my behalf while I'm gone, if that sort of makes sense. So if we're in an emergency, that's when things change, right? We'll get folks stood up. We'll have schedules. We here, in North Texas, we have contact lists, and we've run through simulated emergency tests and things. We did one in November where we simulated a cellular network failure, and city officials and regional officials wanted status updates on connectivity, which became really interesting when Nashville lost their cellular network a month later. It was like, well, that was a good thing to practice, I guess. So we'll practice on that side. We'll have folks on rotation and things like that during an incident, but for the day-to-day, if just for that doesn't happen to have a liaison, then I'll just hang on to it. Okay, let's go ahead and do this practice one. Again, I'm going to go nice and slow. So if you got your radiogram and your pen or pencil handy, here we go. Please copy number 404, routine, Kilo 8, Alpha, Mike, Hotel, 15, Dallas, Texas, April 17, going to your station, break. Now, that's how we would say it on the air. If someone was sending it to me, they wouldn't say, oh, it's going to Aaron Hewlett, Kilo 8. Like, I know my name and my address. So they would say it's just going to your station. So in case I said break, if anybody needed any fills, you would ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume you're going to say go. Thank you for attending this training. Hope to receive some traffic from you soon. Figures 7-3, break. Then I'll assume one of you says go. Aaron, amateur call, Kilo 8, Alpha, Mike, Hotel, end 404. No more. How copy? And hopefully you say I roger your 404. But here, let me get the magnifier out again here. There it is. Hopefully you have something very similar to this. And so probably on your end, I would imagine the pacing was good. On my end, it is, again, feels very, 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 very slow, which is good. After you've handled traffic for a while, oh, by the way, any questions, if you had something different or anything like that, put them in the chat, please. In time, as you're more proficient with traffic handling, you can kind of speed up a little bit maybe, but be careful with that. I have a station here, well, Roger, K5YTA and I, there are some traffic nets where I'll come in and I'll have 7 or 8 pieces of traffic, and we have another net that starts in 20 minutes. And so I use software to capture my traffic so I can type at a pretty good pace. But for anybody that's listening and trying to copy along, it will be insanely impossible to try and write it all down. So I'll usually throw the preface. For those playing at home, we're going to go very fast for time. And that way they know that they're not expected to go that fast. You're not expected to go fast, fast, fast. It's about accuracy. It's just that Roger and I are able to flow things quickly. And it's just something that gets built with time, that understanding. We're working to make the nets longer, so then that problem will go away. But for now, it's the fast. Anybody have any questions on this? Have anything different, anything like that? Let me move this over. There we go. All right, well, if questions, I'll keep an eye. We're coming up to the end here. And so let me give you some quick takeaway items. And again, I'll have all of this in the email that I'll send, but let me go over what I'm gonna send you. So finding a traffic net near you. You have a couple of things that you can do. One is you can search the net directory on the ARRL headquarters webpage, and that's arrl.org /ARRL-net-directory. And I will tell you right now that it is, it could use some improvement on the usability. So if you give it a try and find that it is not giving you the information you seek, please feel free to contact either your section traffic manager or your section manager. You can find out who that is at arrl.org/sections. You'll get a list of all the sections in the league. And if your section does not have an appointed STM, please reach out to your section manager. If you're in North Texas, please feel free to reach out to me. It's why we're here. We're here to help. And if you'd like to get information on what traffic nets are in your area or where you can get in, we'll get you pointed in the right direction. So please feel free to reach out to us. Next is the reference guide and the radiograms I talked about. Again, for anybody, if you didn't happen to grab those are on my personal webpage for ham radio, k8amh.com/handouts. The couple other things you could look at if you'd like for getting hooked into traffic handling, like, okay, you're doing this now, where can I send things? Send things to your friends and family, that type of thing. If you're looking for more, NTS trivia is one thing that I do. I do a new question each week at Sunday, 0 hours, coordinated universal time. So the next question is, what are we at, 20, about 3.5 hours from now. And folks send their answers and I keep track of points and things, and for the heck of it type of thing. It also gives me some interesting insight, like how long did the traffic take to get here? Or the more interesting, hey, I sent this, but you never got my trivia answer. Well, then we can start digging and figure out what's going on. So that's one way. NTS Pen Pal is another program I do where I just ask folks who are interested in maybe getting to know other hams through radiogram traffic to submit their information, and then I'll work to connect you with other hams that are interested. Sometimes I'll have bursts of folks that sign up, and then sometimes I'll have a dry spell. So it might be a little while before I can connect you with someone else. And I try to connect you with someone that's out of your area. I think it's more fun that way if you're talking with someone that's across the country or at least a few states away versus someone that's across town. So I try to get some distance between you. And we've got stations that New York, Michigan, here, Texas, Florida, Ontario, New Jersey, that are in on that. So if you're interested in that, ntspenpal.com for that one. And the last one's one that I started a couple months ago, Traffic Thursday, kind of borrowing from the WinLink Wednesday, where folks would fill out the WinLink check-in form each Wednesday to check into that virtual net. I did the same thing with radiogram-based traffic. Again, 0 hours, coordinated universal time. It's as simple as just send me a piece of traffic. I do have an optional question of the week. Like this week's question is, what's your favorite beverage, coffee, tea, soda, or pop, depending on what part of the country you're from, type of thing. And it's optional to answer it. Some folks just check in, some give the answer. And I collect all the answers and put them up on the webpage and, those types of things. So you're welcome to jump in on that as well if you like. And again, I'll have all these links in an email that, afterwards type of thing. If you're interested in getting to know other hams that are in traffic handling, or if you want to ask questions of other traffic handlers, have a discussion group on Groups.io. As the section traffic manager for ARRL North Texas, I have branded the discussion group as ARRL NTS. There are traffic nets that are independent. The digital traffic net is run by Radio Relay International. I don't care. If you're into traffic handling, you're absolutely welcome to jump in and join the discussion, whether you're on an NTS net or Radio Relay International, an independent traffic net. It doesn't matter. So please feel free to jump in and join the discussion, or lurk, or that type of thing. You're absolutely welcome to do that. Then, of course, any other additional, if you're here in North Texas, we've got the Facebook group. I put some things on Twitter, like when I issue my monthly reports, like what I send up to headquarters. I also post online on the section webpage and have in an email list and things. But you've got my email there. You're welcome to send me a message if you have a question, but please feel free to reach out to your local section traffic manager. That's why they're there. And if you have a piece of traffic that disappears into the ether and it's headed to me, for example, and you let me know, I'll loop in your section traffic manager and we'll start a conversation to dig and see what we can do there to get that part of the network restored. And we've done that. Like we had some traffic out of New York that wasn't making it, and we started digging a little bit and we got that thing going again. So it's good stuff. It just helps us keep the network working, and if we're in an emergency, we've got it built up and ready to go, type of thing. So with that, I see a question pending in the chat, but if anybody has to take off, we're right at the 1.5 hour mark. Thanks for jumping in again. I'll send you the details in an email after I get it up, the video up on YouTube. So that'll take a couple hours to process, and then I'll send the link out with the link to YouTube and all these resources and things. Again, you're welcome to stick around a bit if you have any questions or anything too. I could stay a little bit longer. Any good resources for CW traffic handling? The main thing with that is just be proficient at Morse code, and then after that, find a traffic net that's that's running CW, and start listen, get the flow for that net, and then jump in. Or you could contact that net manager for that net. Like here we have the Texas CW net. There's also the Texas slow net, and the part with the slow is that net, I think, runs at 20 words per minute. But they go slower than, say, the Texas CW net, so that for folks that are building their Morse code skills, have a net that they can come to and practice on. So find a net that you can connect with on CW and just start to listen, and then start looking to jump in, type of thing. That's really the best way to get into the traffic handling. You've got the framework now of how the language of the radiogram works. Start listening and in time, give it a go, type of thing. On my form, I have an SVC service option in the number box. What is it and how do I use it? So one of the things I talked about was servicing back the originating station. So like I have, a message that's come to me and I need to deliver it, but I can't get a hold of the person. I've tried for several days, it's not happening. So I'm going to service the station back saying undeliverable, tried multiple times, no voicemail, or voicemail full, or no answer, that type of thing. Technically, that's called a service message. Now, in practice, do we put service in the number? So instead of like number 404, it would be service 404. And when you write it down, it's Sierra Victor Charlie 404, service 404. That's what the manual says. In practice, we don't really do it. Goes back to that, how much time am I going to burn on the air? It doesn't change anything. right? And I'll check into the nets and I'll say, I have 3 service messages to Florida. And that's kind of my way of saying, please prioritize lower. Like if you have someone sending something in that says happy birthday or I miss you or, I'm, something like that. We had some welfare traffic back here in Texas when we had the freeze and all the power grid went through its thing. We did have a piece of welfare traffic show up at the local net, and you can bet that gets priority over everything else. So who cares about my service message? So I received your traffic on this date and time. The welfare traffic goes first. So I'll give that clue that I have a service message headed to Florida, then the net control station prioritize. But when it's time to relay it, please copy service 404. It doesn't change the impact of the message really. So why am I burning time on it? Kind of like how I don't put the year, so please copy 404 routine, it just, so yes, the manual, I'll tell you what, I'll show you the manual. ARRL.org/NTS will have this if you're interested. This is the 480-page how the NTS runs manual. And so yes, it's huge, but it covers the network end to end. And so I joke each month, someone will ask a question like, how am I supposed to do blah? And I'll say, oh, thank you for helping me fill my quota for the month of getting the manual out and looking up the answer. Or, once in a while I'll say, ooh, lucky me, I already know because I looked it up already. But I'll refer back to this, the methods and practices guidelines document. This covers time zones, words, op notes, how the symbols get translated into words, and this is the end to end. And back, we've been doing this for over 100 years. All of that knowledge and everything is in this document, and so that's why it's huge. And so for new traffic handlers, I really don't, well, go download the manual. It'll help you. Oh my God, you're going to get so lost in this. So start with the handout I gave you, right? That's going to get you more than 80% of the traffic just from that. And then in time, when you, how does that work? How does this work? Start asking questions on the nets, at the DFW local. If we have time, we have a segment that, does anybody have any training questions that we can answer, and we'll open it up and we'll go through and answer those questions. So, feel free to jump in and ask their type of thing. But yeah, this is the instruction manual for how the NTS runs type of thing. So any questions? Hopefully that gives you the service thing. And if any other questions there, yeah, this thing, I see Steve's posted a resource. Oh, this is from RRI, Radio Relay International, Navigating CW Nets. Yeah, their webpage, radio-relay.org. They handle a lot of the DTN side. They have some training materials too. All these different traffic nets, whether it's Radio Relay International or an independent net like 7290 or the Texas Traffic Net or NTS affiliated nets, we're all speaking the same language. We're all working radiograms. We all are using the same pro words. We're all doing the same thing. We all interconnect and that whole bit. So it doesn't matter what the affiliation is or independent. We're all doing the same thing. So feel free to use all the training resources and things across the board for things. We're all interoperating. The goal for everybody is to get the traffic moved. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, especially if we're in an emergency, get the traffic there. That's what we're after with that. So, all right, let me get rid of that hideous thing because it's huge. Other questions? I think there was one about WinLink and how does that work? But let me see if there's any other questions, and then I can dive into WinLink a little bit just to help demystify that type of thing. And I'll keep the recording going too. All right, so WinLink supports a bunch of different message formats. So, some folks, when they see WinLink, they're introduced to it. It's kind of like, oh, it's like this email thing, right? It's just over amateur radio and stuff. I mean, you got the to and the subject, and you can put attachments and things, but you can introduce traffic into the traffic system through WinLink. But I want to just make sure it's clear that the digital traffic network, while it's still using this same type of setup, I mean, AirMail, which is another program that basically works the same language, but as WinLink, but on DTN, it is all over the air, and the system is set up like a mesh network where the system just kind of understands things and will push things in certain directions and stuff like that. So it's, WinLink can get your traffic in there, but once it hits DTN, it's a whole different network that's separate from the WinLink network. So the key thing there is that you can inject traffic into the traffic system with WinLink, but you're not going to get it back out because the system doesn't understand on DTN how to get it to your WinLink inbox. It's going to route it to your local area as close as it can, and then you're going to get the phone call. So if you want it to go in the traffic system, it needs to go in a specific way, and it's not going to come back out of the traffic system to you through WinLink. A station could, send it to you directly, but that's not an NTS function. That would be like me putting an email together and saying, I have a piece of traffic for you, copy paste, and here it is, and here you go, type of thing. So to get traffic in, and this may come in handy for your field day points, hint, hint, is you open up a new message like you're gonna send any other WinLink thing. And then I have Radiogram here because, but you would go to select template. And then in here under standard templates, you're going to find Radiogram and Radio Relay International forms. So you'll expand this and hey, what do you know? Radiogram.txt is here. So you would double click on this and it'll open up your web browser. And hey, this should look pretty familiar, right? There's your radiogram form. What's the number? And WinLink will track what number you're on based on what you've been doing in WinLink. So override this, like 405. Again, we've got the service option if someone wants to fill it in. What's the precedence? Again, emergency. But if you've got emergency, I wouldn't be filling out on the form here. And I think they've kind of shut it down. I mean, come on, you got to know when to, jump on the air and, that type of thing. What's the handling instructions? What's the station of origin? The check it'll figure out on its own. I'll put Dallas, Texas. Time, no time, UTC, local. 2, John Doe, type of thing. Address, 123 Fake Street, some town, Wisconsin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know the zip code. 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Op node, if I know. Why are you yelling? Oh, because I put spaces. Oh, I missed one. Oh, okay. Okay, anyway, that's what I get for typing too fast. Op node, if I need one here. Great seeing you. Hope you are well. Notice how the check got figured out as we go. So you don't need to worry about that, and even gets set up here. So whatever you're typing here is going to get automatically figured out for you. Signature, and again, the op node at the end. Right. So that part so far is like any other radiogram, except you're filling it out on a web form rather than on the piece of paper. Here's where it changes a little bit. To help this route into the system, you have to pick a liaison station. And that's what this link here is for on the bottom. And so once I click this, you're going to get this list effectively asking you, where is it going? And so this is based on the city state and not the call sign. So for example, for me, if it was coming to me in Dallas, Texas, even though I got an 8 in my call sign, it's headed to Texas, region 5. So I would pick region 5 here. So this is based on the destination state rather than what's in the call sign of the ham you're sending it to. And remember, it might not be a ham you're sending it to, so there would be no call sign, but pick the region of where the message is headed. And then once you do that, you can close this window. You're going to see this fill in a little bit. This is to help with the routing again. We've got everything filled out. Assuming I don't have any mistakes, I'll click submit. To finish, click OK. The window will very scarily turn blank. But if we go back to the WinLink message, here is the traffic. And so 405 routine, Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel 8, Dallas, Texas, April 17, break. If you're doing CW, this is how you indicate the break. And it's the same thing in digital, right? So instead of saying break on the air, Bravo Tango, break. So if you're wondering why this is like this, and same thing here, and break after the text for the signature, and then the end, end of the radiogram. Change nothing. Keep this exactly the way it is. The 2 for region 5 is what's going to help DTN route it to its destination. QTC, good old Q codes. Traffic, 1, piece of routine, headed to some town, Wisconsin zip code. So that's what's going on here, right? 1 traffic routine headed here. So don't change anything in the 2, because that routes it towards its destination. Leave the archive so it can go into Radio Relay International's archives. Leave this exactly the same because this is the radiogram. From this point, it's like any other WinLink message. You would post it to the outbox. And if you want this to count for field day, you need to relay it over the air. So Telnet is a no-no. So don't tell me if you did it, I don't want to know. But traffic handling is an over-the-air function. And so if you've got a local packet WinLink on 2 meters you can connect to, if you've got like the Signal Link USB sound modem, or if you've got a Pactor modem and you're going to go through, HF, at that point, I would talk to Radio Relay International and make sure you're getting in there in the way that they need you to. But you need to move it over the air for it to count for field day. Otherwise, you can, in the, the session, let me close. I'm not going to save this because otherwise I'll have some bad traffic going to the system, and I'll have a small conference with somebody at some point about what am I doing. But I mean, you could move it through Telnet and get it into the traffic system that way. I do mine on packet if I'm doing this route, and I connect to a local WinLink node on 2 meters with the sound modem type of thing. And just get it going that way, and then into the system it goes like any other piece of traffic. So let's say again, I'll put the resources up. Let's say someone sends me a piece of traffic through WinLink and puts all my information in there, and then pushes it into WinLink through their 2 meter packet. What'll happen is after it gets there, the WinLink system will route that to Radio Relay International's system. So now it leaves the WinLink system and enters DTN. Then it starts hopping through DTN to Dallas. And then the station here in Dallas, Roger, KE5YTA, he's our liaison, and then John, KF5LU, also assists with digital. Will then bring it to the local traffic net for me. So it will leave DTN and it will come in on the local 2 meter net. So it's like any other piece of traffic that's flowing, whether it comes in on the 2 meter net, then goes to DTN, crosses the country, pops out at a local net on 2 meters on the other end or things, it all still flow the same way. That's the best way I could describe WinLink in a nutshell. Hopefully that wasn't too much, but any questions on how that worked or anything like that? So if you want to jump in on the trivia or Traffic Thursday or things, and you don't have a local net, but you have a 2 meter WinLink packet that you can get to, or if you want to use Telnet, that type of thing, you're welcome to get traffic in, type of thing, and go from there. I guess I'll quickly show, because why not? traffic Thursday, just so you can see what I mean by that. And hey, look, I got the time and coordinated universal time if you need it. The optional check-in question, and then all those statistics I talked about. If you want to know if I got it, I mean, you could do Hotel X-Ray Charlie, and then I'll send you a piece of traffic back that says, hey, I got your traffic on this date and time. But here you can see who sent the traffic, and in the case of the optional question, you know, what their response was, type of thing. And then here's where it gets really interesting for me. How much traffic did I get? And who's coming in, so you can get some little statistics on that. And how long is it taking? Right? What's the average transit time? And again, this is cross country. So, you think about traffic nets, we're not running 24/7 unless we're in an incident type scenario. 2 days, 3 days is a good time frame for things to cross the country type of thing. But you can get an idea on transit times, because I've had the question, well, I put a piece of traffic in, how long does it take? Well, now I have some data to give an answer. Well, it takes on average 2 days, or that type of thing. And you can see it by by state. And if you want to drill down a little harder, like Florida, you can see all the areas I've gotten traffic from in the last 4 weeks from Florida, and how many I've gotten and how long they've taken on average, and things like that. So just in case you're wondering, like, I send the piece of traffic, what happens to it? It's it's good practice, and it also gives some insights on the health of the network type of thing. So other questions I can answer, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll buy you another minute or two. And just again, the housekeeping. Once this is set, I'll need to wait for Zoom to process the recording. And then when that's done, I'll upload it to YouTube, and I'll wait for that to process the recording. And then once that's live and ready to go, I'll send out an email to everybody with a link to that, and the link to the different resources I talked about. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. Please feel free to reach out to your local section traffic manager. Again, that's why we're here. And ask questions. AR, what does Alpha Romeo stand for at the end of the WinLink message? So DTN and CW, I am not proficient in Morse code. I'm one of those hams that doesn't have my Morse code proficiency. It's on my list, but right now all my HF's gears in storage for house build, so I can't even play there. But Alpha Romeo is effectively the end of the is end. It means end. So again, BT, here I'll show you the program that I use. It's called Ready to Copy for tracking my traffic. Again, I would do everything by pen and paper to start. Get used to the flow, and I don't care if that's radiogram traffic or if it's net control logging or things. Practice with pen and paper, because when you're dragged down into the incident scene, where things like computers and electricity are luxuries, you're going to have the pen, and you're going to have the paper, and you're going to have a handheld, and you're going to have to drive. And so, if you're used to doing it on a computer, and now suddenly you got to do it on paper, it can be a lot harder if you didn't get that muscle memory built. So start with pen and paper. And I had a big old stack of about a couple hundred radiograms before I said, okay, I think I got it, and I went all digital. But Ready to Copy is one. Hang on here. Usually my screen resolution is a lot bigger, so I need to get this moved from off in the middle of nowhere back to here. But effectively, this is going to look the same way, except it doesn't have the end on it, but same thing, BT break in between. It's because it's the standards. So, when you're seeing it in WinLink, or if you see it in Ready to Copy, or you're working it on CW, on the end, AR, Alpha Romeo, it's how it's all going to flow. Again, we're all using it's the same language, whether, you're on one component of the network or another type of thing. So. Great. Other questions? Otherwise, I got the thank yous in the chat. Thank you, everybody. A lot of great questions, good conversation. I hope you find it helpful. I hope you get into traffic handling, but even if the skills just help you with like Skywarn nets, or you're working a a public service event like a parade or tournament or marathon or things. A lot of what we do here with traffic handling is just building the skill set. So whether you take that skill set back to a traffic net or to a local event net or things, it's good stuff. So appreciate you jumping in. Again, questions, let me know. Give me a little bit of time to kung fu everything together with the video and stuff, and then I'll get the email out tonight, I promise. Hang in there. But again, thanks much. Questions, shoot me an email, that type of thing. Otherwise, have a good rest of the Saturday, everybody. And thanks again. 73 from me from Dallas. And all right, we'll go ahead and end the recording here.